Welcome to The Pursuit, a podcast that discusses all things dating, relationships, and personal development from a godly perspective. The discussions are geared to address issues young Christians and Adventist Christians face in the dating space. We set out to create an arena where believers can feel themselves heard, to start the conversation of some of the heavier topics and establish a clearer picture of what godly dating can look like. I'll say now that this podcast isn't for everyone. It's for those looking to pursue dating from a faith lens and thus ready for the uncomfortable and mature of conversations. If that's you, welcome. We're happy to have you join us on this journey. In today's pilot episode, we'll be talking about some of the common issues we're seeing in the dating space, some of the problems we've encountered personally, and some of the topics that we'll be diving into with more depth in future episodes. I again want to thank you for joining us in this Baerstone production. Without further ado, here's The Pursuit.
Josue Peralta. I'm here joined today by my sister Abby and Michael. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How was yours? How was your day?
It was good. Good. I saw a cute guy at the dog park. Yours?
It was good. Although I was busy getting this together. Mike, you had a rough day, didn't you?
Yeah, just some stuff at home, and then just studying and just doing other stuff in the library for the last 5-6 hours. So fun. Yeah,
that does sound rough. But I mean, you're trying to get into medical school, so it does take work and it does take a lot of effort. So I feel you there. I figured we could go around and introduce ourselves. And why don't I go first? So my name is Josue Peralta. I live in Wisconsin, and I'm a web designer. Our firm works on websites and photography and things like that. Some things I'm passionate about would be travel. I've been traveling almost nonstop for the last couple of years, although I'm taking a break this summer. I'm into photography, which I started doing professionally last year, which was a lot of fun. I'm currently writing a novel. It sucks so far, but I'm kind of excited about the direction about it, or I should say the direction that it's going. And then recently I joined a tennis league. So I'm hoping to get back into tennis a little bit more competitively and not be embarrassed as I was on my first week there. So that's pretty interesting. And then something, I guess currently I'm taking a little bit of a break from some clients and working on the podcast. This one, along with other ones, with the production company Baerstone, which is my production company. So I'm pretty excited to kind of see where that goes from there. So, hey, Mike, do you want to follow that up?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Michael Hughes. I am a friend of Josue, a longtime friend, I'd say, from 5th grade.
It's a long time ago.
And Esmerna here as well. I work on an ambulance company up in the town that I live in. I'm trying to get into medical school. I think you mentioned that already, Josue. So that's a process with that. But, outside of that, I'm very into, traveling, going out with friends, just a lot of young people things these days. I'm also, very involved in my church, my local church.
You guys are setting up a new church, aren't you?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's a church plant. We've been doing this for a while. We're in a pretty, I won't say it's a tough area. There's a lot of potential there, but, it's hard growing a church plant. But, yeah, I mean, it's something, that I'm passionate about.
Where is your church?
It's in West Bend, Wisconsin. I don't think a lot of people would know where that is here, but it's a small town, so just Google it if you want. But yeah, I like church ministry. I've done a lot of mission trips. in the Adventist church. I was on one last year in Colombia. I went to one in Iceland. You could check it out on YouTube. I'm the star of the video. Wink.
I remember that.
You're
I
a
actually
movie
have
star.
people remember me from that. People who have never met. It's like, hey, I thought I recognized you from somewhere. I was like, yes, that was me. I've been
You
on
do have
3ABN.
spectacular skin.
I'm a little famous. No, just messing around. I'm not so famous. But anyway, yeah, that's just me. Like to travel, like church ministry, and trying to get into medical school. So,
Some good stuff, bro.
yes.
Cool.
How about you, Doc?
Well, my name is Abby, and I am a program coordinator here in Wisconsin for the Medical College of Wisconsin. I said Wisconsin already. I just finished my master's degree, and I am looking to transition into another job that is related to what I studied for. So I'll begin that search soon. But things I am passionate about are my dog, Benny, and just traveling, self-development, meeting new people, trying new things, and just reading and swimming. But overall, I just want to be a better person every day.
I like that. I think we're all fans of trying to get better every day here. So all of us here, myself, Michael, and Abby, are all single. And we wanted to kind of get together and talk a little bit about some of the issues that we see in not only in dating in general that we've encountered personally, but also some issues that we've seen in terms of like dating in the Adventist church. So what's interesting about the dating in the Adventist church is that we have certain quirks and certain language that other people who are, let's say, outside of the church wouldn't particularly understand, or just would, look at, to take a second look at, just because they don't kind of see what's going on or the inside workings of it, let's say. So let's start with you, Abby, real quick. What are some issues that you would say that you would see that you are seeing in the Adventist church, if any?
I think the biggest issue is that dating or how to date within the church is not talked about. Since it's not talked about, then we're looking to the world or how other people are doing things, whether it be dating apps or just speed dating, stuff that worldly people are doing, which is fine in and of itself. But being Seventh-day Adventist is just so unique, and there's so many different things that need to be taken into consideration when it comes to dating,
Right.
that just non-Seventh-day Adventist people wouldn't think about. So,
Give me an example of that.
like sex or intimacy, where God is in the relationship. Those are usually things that aren't discussed, whether it be from a dating coach or in an app most of the time. So I feel like the biggest thing is it's not talking about dating, and then we have no guidance. So then it's just a big gray area, and we're just trying to survive.
I agree. Mike, what's an area that you feel like dating in the Adventist church is kind of struggling a little bit?
Well, I definitely want to piggyback off of what Esmeralda said, because I can definitely relate to that. I don't put my family on blast here, but like that was never discussed, dating.
Right.
It was never really even, well, to be quite honest, like I was not even really allowed to date. And I don't want to say, get into names here, but, I think one of my parents was more open to it than the other, if you can kind of get where I'm going. But
We know.
Yeah. And I love both my parents, they mean well, but, being in an Adventist church, we're a peculiar, we, are, we're Christian, but, in Christianity, we're, I would say very different. Not very different, but different enough where you would notice.
Different enough is a good term. Yeah.
And so dating is just kind of like almost a taboo, even though it's very common in the world. And I have views on dating that are generally maybe considered old fashioned.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, like I think talking about it, because I've had another friend of mine say the same thing. He was never talked to about, dating or sex or anything like that. And so when he went to college, kind of went off the deep end.
Wow.
And then when you try to like, talk to the opposite, gender, you just, I don't know, you're kind of unsure of yourself. I feel like a lot of people.
Well, I mean, you're starting from behind, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're dating, someone who's non-Adventist or non-Christian. But but that's a good point that Abby made, and Abby is the nickname we have for Smyrna, just in case anybody.
Yeah, my name is Smyrna.
It's Smyrna. It's so natural for me to say Abby, though. Do you want me to say Abby on here?
Let's stick to Smyrna.
Smyrna.
For
Okay, sorry.
Shits and giggles.
My bad.
No, I mean,
Go ahead.
no, I kind of feel where you guys are coming from here. The first thing that Abby mentioned, which I have on here too on my list, is the lack of education. I feel like the art of romance isn't taught at all. In
No,
other
it's
words,
not.
like if you're a young adult, if you're a young guy and you're trying to romance, a young lady, where would you go to for guidance on that? You could ask your parents, sure, but let's say you don't have parents, or your parents are part of a broken relationship and they don't have a good format for you to follow. Where would you go? Okay, let's say you look to the church for that. Okay, now you're looking at the church, but you're not seeing anything. So now, not only are you not finding it at home, you're not finding it in the church, and then let's say you're not finding it in the church. Okay, let's look at school.
You're gonna find it there.
You're going to find it there, but it's not going to be probably the one that you thought you were going to get, because it's probably not coming from administration. It's going to come from other students who maybe who have seen it somewhere else, and probably haven't seen it at home, but from other worldly places, for lack of a better term here. I think also, to kind of piggyback off of that one, it's the fact that whereas before, like in the church, there was a little bit of a buffer when it came to practices in dating and things like that, just because we profess to be Christians, we profess to be Christ-loving here. At least I'm seeing a lot of worldly problems that used to be exclusive to the world are coming into Adventism and into Christianity, and now that are problems that we have to deal with because we forgot to educate, we neglected to educate, we just completely dropped the ball in that area, if that makes sense.
And if I can interject here, when we mean the world, it's non-Christian believers, correct?
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah,
because the world we're in this world.
That's one of those
we're part
Adventist
of the world,
terms.
right? Yeah, that's an Adventist thing.
The world. What are they talking about?
Let's clarify that. And I also gotta say, it's not just about how to date, but it's more about the purpose of dating, right? Where we gotta center that
different.
In Christ. Like,
thank you.
And I feel like that is the biggest difference between Christian believers and non-believers. And that's a huge thing, because depending on what you're centered on and what's your core belief is how you're going to approach dating. So then if that's not even talked about, then it's no wonder that we're not approaching dating from a Christian perspective if we're not even being taught about it.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what I struggle with, because, I was always told, like, figure everything else out, or, get your degree, have everything set up. And then, when you got your money, then you'll have a wife miraculously. And I'm just like, that, I mean, like, I get that, that makes sense. But, I'm like, but that's like a whole other process too. Like getting a wife, dating. Like, how am I supposed to even know how to do that?
They say date to marry, but they don't say what that actually looks like or what that even means.
Exactly, and that's just so hard. And like like I said, I'm kind of old school. Like, I do believe in dating with purpose and intention, especially if you want to go from a biblical perspective.
I agree. Yeah, I think there's a biblical based.
Yeah, I mean,
belief. Yeah,
I don't think that's old school either. Having a purpose in dating, I think that's something we have to have, or else it's just, what's the point?
Well, I mean, there's just so much casual dating today. People, they just date just for the fun of it.
Again, coming back to issues that we used to not see in the church that we're now seeing because we've allowed kind of worldly influences to come into what is supposed to be a Christ-centered approach to dating there. And then just one last thing before we kind of move on into some issues that we've encountered personally is just the fact that Adventist doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. So an Adventist in Latin America is not the same as an Adventist in North America. An Adventist in North America is not the same thing in Europe. And even just to stay here in the U.S., an Adventist from small town USA, Wisconsin, when you go to California, it's a completely different experience.
Like you're talking about like more conservative, more liberal
Yeah.
Adventism. Yeah, definitely.
So that's something that we want to address here on the podcast. Just a lot of those questions that aren't being communicated, a lot of things that aren't being educated. We want to kind of touch upon those things to make sure that somebody says them and that they are said, if that makes sense.
And who better to talk about it than three single people?
That's what I'm saying.
Perpetually
Single with
I
a
am
purpose.
Perpetual in single.
So that's a good point that Abby just brought up, because one of the things that I wanted to focus on when I told him about this idea a couple months ago was the fact that I wanted to focus and center on the fact on being on singleness and on dating. I don't want to touch on anything that has to do pertaining to in a relationship, because none of us are in a relationship. So
No
we
cred.
can't. Yes. So out of the three of us, I'm the only one who's been in a relationship prior. And that's not to brag, but my point is that we're going to leave that kind of section or those conversations for somebody else to take on.
Or whenever we get partners.
Or whenever we get partners.
Next year, maybe? Michael?
To kind of talk about that. So, just moving a little bit forward on regarding kind of our personal experiences here. Now, I just mentioned that, out of the three of us, I'm the only one who's priorly dated. Abby, let's start, or I should say, Michael, let's start with you this time. What are some issues that you've encountered personally in Adventist dating or dating in general?
Well, we kind of touched on it already, with the comment that Esmeralda stated about just, lack of education, first, and foremost. But I think that's kind of a deep question to me, because, like, it's so connected to, dating is it's so connected to, like, Adventism and, like, our thinking and just how the world is, that, like, I don't think you can just answer it, like, in one question. But I mean, like, to put it bluntly, though, I think most people would agree that the main thing is numbers.
You would say that's personally one of the issues you've encountered.
Oh, that's what I think. Yeah, right now, definitely. If I'm just gonna go off the surface and not get too deep into it, it's just there's not so many of us. And we can go into why that is. You can say, like,
absolutely,
there's a leaving away from the church, or falling out from the church, and then
or not, like, everybody in the church is actually.
Just to put it in perspective, I did some research before I came in. Tried to be a little educated, for once. So there are about 1.2 million members in the NAD.
How many are women?
We'll get to that. Don't worry, I did all that. There are about 1.2 million members in the NAD. So for anybody who doesn't know, the NAD, the Adventist Church, is split up into, it's a worldwide church, and it's split up into divisions. And so the NAD stands for the North American division. So that's like all the churches in North America.
Right.
Okay.
Which includes
Mexico, US, Canada. Yeah. So there's 1.2. Of those, only about 10% of them go to church weekly.
So in other words, out of the 1.2,
there's about 120,000 that we might see on a weekly basis.
That was my next question.
Keep going.
And then
with the stats,
after that, let's say for us, we're all mid-20s, right? Okay, so I've looked at the age range of 18 to 35. Not saying, I won't get into that, but not saying anybody who would date, like, someone super young or, super old. But in general, there are about 50 or 40,000 people. No, 30% of those people are within 18 to 35 years old. So 120,000,
that's about
30%.
20,
that's about 30. No,
24,000.
No, 40,000. 30% of 120,000 is.
You said 18%?
40%.
Oh, 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 40% is about
No, sorry, 30%. Oh my gosh, I'm getting mixed up with the numbers. Yeah, only, according to Pew, only 30% of the people who go to church are within 18 to 35 years old.
Right, so that puts us at about
30,
36,000.
yeah, about 30,000. So the numbers are getting very small from 1.2 million.
And that's from 18 to 35.
That's from 18 to 35, yes. So, if you're, I don't know.
We're in our
if you
mid-20s.
have like a specific age range that you want to go to, that's the numbers are going to get very much smaller.
Adjust accordingly.
Yes.
And-
And then of those,
Uh-huh.
about 50%, 57% of them are female.
Come on.
So that's about 22. I did the numbers, 22,800.
Wow.
Okay. So in the entire continent,
Say
there's
it.
only about 22,800 people that we may have a chance of seeing.
So you're saying it's hard out here for women, yeah?
It's hard out here for both of us. I mean, like even less for women, yeah, because there's even
It's harder for women because
there's even less men.
That's
might-
almost a
you-
6-4 split.
Yes.
yeah.
Meaning that for
Meaning
every 6 women, they're
ain't
fighting
getting
for
no
4.
man.
That's right.
Exactly.
Assuming that these men are worth getting.
Well, then and
That's the
that's true. But then
And assuming that these women are also worth.
assuming
Well, I
these
mean-
men or women aren't 18
I'll
either
give
because
them-
we're in our mid-20s. We
Thank
ain't looking
you.
for no
And
so
18-year-old.
the number's gonna get smaller, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If you're going to church weekly, I'll say, okay, this person, they may have they're probably spiritual to some degree. I think all of us, we want to date within the church here. I think we all want to date someone who's active or, spiritual in the sense, like that. But I mean, how many of those people are, I don't know how many of these people are in relationships already.
That's a very good
So
point.
the
Yeah.
numbers are going to get even
It doesn't
smaller.
even say
Smaller.
that. That's right.
And then if you think about it, I've had many people tell me, because none of us here went to Adventist college.
I did.
Esmeralda
I did
did.
go to an Adventist college, yes.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she went to
that's right.
Antillean
That's right.
Adventist University.
That's right, but that doesn't count for NAD, so. No.
No, it
does
doesn't.
it?
It doesn't. No.
There's no way.
I believe it counts for the one with South America or something like that. I don't know,
Inter-American?
but they don't really count it.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
So Mike, so
the numbers are getting very small.
So numbers is one of your main issues that you've encountered,
I mean,
which is fair. You just laid out your case, and it's a strong case.
yeah, and for me, and the numbers get even smaller. They continue to get smaller because, like I said, it's thought that okay, when you go to college, then you'll find your wife, right?
Yeah.
But not every Adventist is going to college.
Can I just,
Most Adventists don't even go to Adventist college.
And that's
So-
assuming that most people that go to college are worth getting or
Well, yeah.
in the mindset
There's
of dating.
chemistry and everything. You're not
Yeah.
just going to find the first Adventist woman you see and want to marry her. Like, it's not how
let's
it works.
just stop there for like a quick second. The fact, like our Adventist education and specifically colleges, the fact that a lot of us chose to go to a non-Adventist institution
Most Adventists do.
because
Yeah.
number one, it's either too far from home, number two, too expensive, or number three, it's just not that intellectually rigorous. I know
Exactly.
specifically for us, Abby, we left the Adventist school system when we were younger specifically because of the fact
I've heard
that there
that.
was no intellectually rigorous courses for me specifically. I was dying in school, and I know that you too.
Yeah.
But my point is like once you see that happening, you're gonna assume that the colleges are gonna be the same way. I know. So we did up to or I did up to through middle school.
I did
and
to
then
6th grade.
through sixth grade for you. And I know in high school, I graduated with a ton of college credits because I focused on a lot of AP classes, something that I wouldn't have even known existed in the Adventist system, which is a shame.
Or at least here in Wisconsin, right? Because
Yeah,
not
I
all
think-
Adventist systems are the same. Like, for example, in Michigan has a wonderful education system, but then again, they have way more money
Than
than
Wisconsin
Wisconsin.
does.
So then it's like not every state has the same opportunity within the Adventist education system.
Because I'm not going to lie. When I went to public school, it was a very hard transition because the classes were so much faster and they were learning a lot more. And
Wow.
There's just so much more
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
opportunities and resources there. Like, it's like I was behind, I would say that. And I think Adventist education is, is great, but, it's just, you're going to be behind. But, it's, in terms of, getting back to the relationship thing, though, like,
And the issues that you've encountered.
well, yeah, like, a lot of Adventists aren't going to go to, Adventist college, most of them don't. And, I didn't, I have a different, story than most, I would say.
Right.
But
as a
yeah, no, I was in the military.
Former
and everything,
Marine.
thing like that.
hoorah.
Thank you for your service.
No, thanks. But like, I was just, not around, and then there's summer camps, I know one of my good friends, a lot of, people that I know, met their, spouse at a summer camp or got into a relationship through that.
Right.
I'm not going to say how many of them survived, but, they,
That's heavy.
that's
heavy.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Even if you get into the relationship, most relationships fail, most,
Yeah.
most marriages fail.
Although
So-
that's not an exclusively Adventist problem.
I know it's
That's
not,
just
but it's still a problem, and we're
Sure.
already at a severe numbers problem. But kind of wanted to go just a little bit more, and then we'll let somebody else speak, Esmeralda speak. Like for me, like I said, I've already said that I'm very like involved in my local church. Like I'm passionate about it. It's just something that it's just who I am. And I feel like, I'm in this dilemma because like I could easily go to, one of these Adventist havens. And for people who don't know, like there's parts of the country where there's just a very
higher
big,
concentration
much more
of Adventist young
concentrated
adults.
area of Adventists, like
and
California.
there are only 3. Let's just
What-
get that out there.
The
Yeah.
Tennessee one.
The 3 major ones are near Andrews and Berrien Springs,
Loma Linda.
Loma Linda, and then by Southern in Collegeville, Tennessee.
Party
even
city.
just
What was that?
It's a party city.
Yeah.
Really. But even just states like California as a whole just has more Adventists,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Tennessee, and there's other, other states I think have more, like people there. We live in, Wisconsin, like typically like states around the Midwest don't have that much.
And then you add to the
But-
fact that you're part of a church plant.
Yeah, and so like I feel like if I move from my church plant, because we're a church plant, I'm one of the very few young people that are there, and I'm active. I feel like if I leave, that's just gonna, not the whole thing's gonna stop, but there's just gonna be a lot that's missing because I do a lot, But what am I gonna do in terms of dating? Like am I gonna have to just wait here or
It's a
wait till I go
choice.
to medical school?
It's a choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just
heavy.
like
It's heavy.
I want to wait for God to maybe move, or do I just go and find a spouse somewhere? And people don't want to say they do that, but I feel like a lot of people do that.
And I mean, I don't think you should be ashamed if you do, because if that's something that's very important for you, you gotta go out and get it, right? Isn't that what they say? Like you gotta
Go
go
get
out,
it.
get what you want.
And to be honest, I think a lot of people in today's day and age, because we see a lot of things on social media, feel ashamed to be single or feel like it's like we're at a disadvantage of like, oh, we're single. So it's like, like I don't like, I'm probably single because I don't even belong in the game or
Yeah.
something like this.
Yeah.
And that's stopping a lot of young adults from even admitting the fact that they're looking for somebody. And because you can't even admit it to yourself, you can't act upon it. And if you're not acting upon it, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And I mean, it's not a mutually exclusive Adventist thing where you're ashamed to be single. I think it's a worldly thing. Just everybody's just scared to say that they're single and they want somebody because what's the ideology thrown out there that I don't need nobody, like, and if you want somebody, you're weak. And it's like, I don't want to be seen as weak, so I'm not going to be wearing my heart on my sleeve because I got to survive.
Right. And I mean, it's not like the statistics show that married people are happier in general or anything, which in fact they do show that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Doc, have you encountered any issues personally in the dating space?
Going off of Michael, for starters, the numbers. Michael, you proved my point. One of them exactly, that there are just way more women than men. So then it's just there's so much women, and then you're competing for these very few men, which kind of blindsides you to see, like, are these men even worth chasing? Because it's like,
Assuming that women chase at all.
in the sense
just
of
put that out
like,
there.
well, the way women chase is like makeup or like clothes or like flirting, like all that stuff, like self-worth or what you're willing to do for a guy. That's the type of thing women do. Wouldn't necessarily make the first move, but women do something to get attention. So that's what I mean with, like, if he's even worth all that I'm doing. So the numbers, and then also just the attack on men in general, and lots of, I don't want to say it, but girly men, feminine men, where it's like,
It's a hard truth. I'm sorry. It's
it's
a hard
just,
truth.
I mean, I was on Instagram the other day, and it's just like, the dad is better looking. Like, he exudes testosterone, whereas his sons exuded girly vibes. Like, don't get me wrong, they were all very good looking men, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a lack
If you're a
of
woman who's looking for a masculine man, it's harder.
that masculinity in men, apart from the numbers. And then on top of that, the pressure that you receive as a woman, especially in the church, of like being the Proverbs 18, 31 woman. And then it's like your inner struggle where, like, well, I'm nothing like that. Like, and then a lot of the people just take that Proverbs 31 woman very, very seriously, or don't even like digest it of like what it is. So then it's like that you get that pressure on top, and then it's just kind of like you can be frozen of like, well, I'm not Proverbs 31, but like you're kind of feminine too, so like I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
Would you agree, now that you bring it back up again, that like there are a lot of feminine dudes, that there are a lot of masculine women that don't necessarily appeal to the masculine men that you're addressing?
I agree. Yes, I think there are a lot of masculine women, and they're on the rise. And I feel like a reason because of that is that women just have to do a lot of stuff on their own. Because of this whole attack on men and this rise of extreme feminism, women just have to like do stuff on their own. Like, you can't. Before, it was expected a woman to, like, you know, the guy to just work and the woman stay at home. But now it's like, if a woman wants to stay at home, most of the time it's like, you're working too, you know? It's like, what are you bringing to the table? So it's like, women, we got to get used to being on our own, because it's not even guaranteed we're going to find somebody. So then you got to exude that masculine energy more just to survive, I think.
I kind of see where you're coming from. Would you agree, or are you insinuating, or would you even put it the fact that if and when you did find a guy eventually, you would kind of tone down the masculinity? Because keeping that same energy doesn't really bode well, because why would a masculine guy want a masculine woman when he's already has enough masculinity to spare?
I think personally I would tone down the masculine thing, because obviously I wouldn't be alone anymore, right? Granted, that man has to prove himself worthy of that, because I'm not going to be submissive or whatever you want, daddy. Like, to a man that has no job, to a man that has no car. Like, you know what I mean?
Very masculine, then, because she don't do none of that.
So what I'm trying to say is, like, you have to provide that sense of safety, because I feel like that's when the women can feel safe to be that submissive or more feminine. But when women don't have that safety, then it's like, I'm not going to give that to you, because I need to take care of myself.
So what would you say to the argument, which, I mean, I'm kind of or just the argument, the fact that, like, you're saying, okay, well, once the guy exudes, and proves his masculinity and his ability to provide, et cetera, then I can tone down the masculinity and kind of get into more of my feminine frame. Do do you see the flaw, the fact that a guy won't even will hesitate to approach you to begin with because you're waiting on something that he's not, that like he's looking for something that you're not even stepping into unless he does something. So in other words, your show of femininity is conditional on somebody else instead of just a virtue of being a woman.
You
Does that
only
make sense?
see that femininity. You have to get to know someone to see that.
Right.
So
there
as
has
you
to
get
be a balance, I guess. Is
Yeah.
what I'm
So
saying.
if a guy doesn't ever talk to me, like, how is he ever gonna know I'm ever feminine or not? Like, okay, yeah, I get you, like the way you dress or the way you approach men. Yeah, women, you can maneuver that, right? Your feminine energy, you can know when to play it. But at the end of the day, walking into that fullness of that feminine energy that's not given right away. A man has to earn that.
Personally, I just feel that's a little bit weird that a woman's femininity is conditional.
I don't.
Whereas you're looking for a man to be masculine in his frame before you even give him a second of attention, before you even count him worthy, like he has to be that guy before you're ever that woman.
Not
Do
full.
you see kind
not
of the flaw there?
I'm not saying 100% conditional. I guess what I'm trying to say is to the full extent of it, of like making you lunch, of like,
that's
of
like,
all these nurturing,
that's girlfriend duties.
of all
that's
these nurturing things that
takes,
women
yeah.
do.
Mm-hmm.
There are levels to that feminine energy that you don't get until you got to work for that. And I think that's just the peculiarity of being a woman, of being feminine. It's just we're more complex, like an onion. You have to peel back those layers. I think God created us that way for a purpose.
I mean, I think that's something we definitely want to get into in one of the future episodes here.
And I do think that's a problem that's like also shared with a lot of people outside of Adventism.
Of course.
Feminism and attack against men. Those are definitely things that I think a lot of people would agree with. However, I don't know how you want to do this, but like that did kind of bring me to another issue that I think is very prevalent in particularly amongst Adventism.
What's that?
Because we're more, like I said, our beliefs, we're more peculiar, we're more close to the Bible, and I think a lot of times we take that to, I don't want to say the extreme, but maybe that's the right word for it. I don't know. But like we typically, I think a lot of Adventists, because you talked about conservative and liberal, and I would definitely say I was more brought up on the, I know.
It's a spectrum.
Yeah,
right?
It's a spectrum. And I definitely would say I'm more on the conservative side. And I think there's still a lot more conservative Adventists. But
Interesting.
just from my experience.
I would venture to say the opposite, but...
Well, just from my experience.
Yeah, but just continue. I'm curious.
But, one of the problems I faced is like acceptance of whoever your partner is. Like you saying, if they don't fit the Proverbs 31 person, or even if they don't fit, the quote unquote guy, but they're still like, good Adventists. But, like, what if they,
or just
what if they weren't,
Christian?
Well, yeah, but like, I think it's big. One of the things that's big, like in our church, is like, oh, this person, they're not a virgin, or this person, they come from a broken home. I don't want you with them. These are things I've heard,
Yeah.
And
I've
so,
heard that too.
Yeah.
I had a friend who specifically told me that his parents told him to stay away from women who come from a divorced home.
Now you can look at the the statistics, and you can say what you want about it, but I mean those are just statistics. They're just like averages. They don't like really speak to the actual person, And I think like Adventists, and it goes to just even outside of dating. Like we have a very like biblical view on a lot of things, which is okay. But I think, we have to remember the Bible was written, 2,000 years ago, and not everything is going to be, I guess the same, because like 2,000 years ago, like, I mean, if if you had a wife who everybody knew,
unconservative thing to say.
Well, I'm just saying, like 2,000 years ago. I mean, that like I'm more middle, But like 2,000 years ago, if you were gonna marry a woman who's been with multiple in multiple relationships and isn't a virgin, that's gonna be very looked down upon. And that's, that I think that's just, that was how it was in that time. But today, is, I would say it's different. The world is different. Dating is so much, more accepted. I'm not saying that's okay, but I'm just saying, like, our expectations have to change with the times that we're in. Maybe not our beliefs, obviously.
It's interesting.
Because I believe I believe in, like abstinence, right?
Yeah.
But like if a girl, or if, a guy that you're interested, didn't do that, well, obviously, they understand that, what's the right way, but if their history is different, then I think we should be accepting of that and not just like draw a line.
I agree.
Because we're already at a numbers problem. So we got to do as best we can. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
we got to be more accepting. That's, I think, what I'm trying to say.
Accepting in the sense of like that people change and that the Christ changes you.
Exactly.
But like if the person is not changing
then that's different.
their behavior, then obviously that's
a
red flag, walk away.
But don't let their past influence how you see them. If you know there to be a changed person, if they acknowledge
I see what
past.
you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I think we have a problem in the Adventist church of accepting that.
That's actually a solid point. One thing that I personally have encountered is the fact that, it's not even exclusive to Adventism, because of course it's not. It's the fact that there's poor communication. People don't communicate who they are, what they want, what they need. And thus, we keep playing games. Everybody's playing, I'm interested in you, but only enough to where you can reject me and I'm going to be okay. Only to where it's like, oh, okay, like a girls usually play hard to get, or even guys play hard to get, or it's like I might be interested in you, but I'm never going to communicate that. I'm never going to say that out loud, just because of the fact that, first of all, it's taboo or weird, or I'm going to sound desperate or something,
or too forward.
And again, we're just out here playing games when we're trying to live real life. And we're not even communicating our needs, which just adds to the problem. I think another issue is, it might sound a little weird, but I think we're over-reliant on technology. And the reason I say that is because I think a lot of us have become so accustomed to finding peace and comfort behind our screens that talking to strangers is strange. Or even like at GYC, even at the GC, even at a different church that you go to, talking to a fellow Adventist is not common, is not encouraged. It's
and
not.
If you do,
it's not something. It's not normal.
And if you do, you're seen as the weird one, or like, well, what does this person want? Where it's kind of like, well, I just want to have a human connection.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Regardless. So now if we were to portray that over, or just kind of put that on relationships, because we're so on our phones and we connect with people on our phones, and let's not to say that it's a bad thing at all. It's the fact that when it comes to meeting people in real life, it becomes an issue, because then you won't have those meet cutes that you see, that you hear your parents' stories about, or your grandparents' stories about, or the Hallmark movies about, because everything is just behind the screen. And now, Adventism, we don't have a Tinder to go to. We don't have a Hinge to go to. We don't have a Bumble to go to. So now,
I don't want a Tinder in Adventism. Just
no.
Tinder is just too superficial,
right? But
I get it.
But you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. There are some Christian apps, but it's just they're so
poorly run. In my opinion, they're not visually appealing.
Yeah,
and
no one even
and
really
the kind of people that are on there aren't young adults. A lot of the times, they usually tend to trend a little bit older. And that's something that I've been wanting to do for years, but I haven't had kind of the team to go along with it, to get an Adventist dating app that's actually worth its time and money off the ground. So that's something that I kind of want to go on in the future. But lastly, I want to touch upon the fact that I feel like we're a little bit selfish in our approach to dating, where we want somebody to complete us. We want somebody who can assimilate to our lives. We want somebody who can kind of be everything and, anything and everything to me. And with that approach, we're not seeing, and we're not kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like we're not just, we're mistaking the forest for the trees. So where instead of wanting to build something together, like a marriage that will honor God and that will be a blessing to society, we want somebody who can make me feel better about, X, Y, and Z, who will fill that hole in my heart. And that's honestly, I feel, the wrong way to approach dating in general.
Of course it is, especially in our church, because we're approaching dating that way because we took God out of the picture.
Somewhere along the line.
Because that's the opposite of the approach that Christ calls us to be. We are called to serve. We are called to be a blessing. So in that sense, that's why dating in Christianity needs to be addressed, because you need to have that Christ foundation of like, it's not just what I'm getting, it's what I'm giving in Jesus. Because we can't just say, yeah, we want a Christian relationship and just add God after. We have to have God every step of the way.
No exceptions.
And we're not having God every step of the way if we're in a selfish mindset, even just to get a partner.
Agreed. And not to mention that, getting into a relationship with that selfish mindset is a recipe for disaster in and of itself.
Whether you're Christian or not.
Whether you're Christian or not.
There's a lot of things that, I was talking to someone about this recently. Like, there's a lot of things that people in the unchristian world, like, understand, like, and they're core Christian concepts, but, they're not Christian, but they still understand them. I think a lot of our problems, are felt.
Give me an example of that, of like core Christian core concepts that they understand that we just don't.
Let me see. I mean, we were kind of talking about like, a relationship should, be something that people both give into. It's not just like, more, from one person and that's it, or one person constantly giving. I think that's a biblical, concept. Like, when two people come together, they're supposed to glorify, God. The relationship is about God. Some people, obviously there's people that don't believe about God, but, I think they would generally understand what we're trying to get at. Like, the relationship should be about, not just about you, but about others. You should be, representing your family, raising a family. I don't know. They should help you, pursue your career, or bring each other up together. It's not just like, some of these like gold diggers or whatever, they just want the paycheck, they don't want to give anything. And then you see a lot of people, all these, prenups and stuff like that, because they don't trust the person. They feel like they're just there to take from them. So I think it's just.
I mean, I personally wouldn't say that a prenup is unbiblical.
No, I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying, like, I feel like more people, because of how our culture is, where, a lot of people. Well, yeah, I feel like prenups wouldn't need to be a problem or wouldn't be an issue if, like, people actually, believe that this person was here to, support and push them. But you see so much widespread distrust, so much, divorce, so much like infidelity. Like, people are going to be just like, well, yeah, she says she loves me, but I don't know. One day she might not. One day she might come up with something and run off with all my money.
But I mean, a prenup is just a contract. It's like a marriage contract. It's all about just, the safety net, just in case something happens. And we live in a sinful world.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Things change and things happen.
People change.
And
circumstances change.
Yeah.
But that goes towards our culture of just like casual dating and,
Yeah,
50% of marriages ending in divorce. Like, it just goes all towards like social media. It's just so wrapped up in our culture. That's why, it's, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I can understand why people would need it, but, in an ideal world, we would not need it.
Agreed. Now, what are some topics that you guys want to kind of address in this podcast? Because, I mean, to be honest, like we want to touch, like I mentioned at the beginning, on anything and everything pertaining to the single life and to the dating life, and to leave the conversations regarding in the relationship to another podcast and to another time. So like, I want to make sure I get your guys' input and maybe and obviously the audiences too on what it is that like some topics that touch you on a personal level that you don't want to forget that we make sure we touch on. Abby, like what would be one, for example, for you?
For me, well, I'm a psychology major, so I am very read on lots of different things, and I think a subject that I'm very passionate about that I think needs to be spoken about is sexuality in the Adventist culture and dating and Adventism, in the sense of like your sexuality, how God intended it, your sexuality as a single person, in a partnership,
I like that.
in marriage, but we're not talking about marriage. But I think sexuality is such a big thing. And then I guess the second one is communication. How to actually become a good communicator when you're single, how to communicate in a relationship.
How to use your single time to learn to communicate, etc., etc. How about you, Mike?
State the question again just to make sure I get it right.
Sure. What are some areas or topics that you feel passionate about that you want to make sure we address in the podcast?
Just, I mean, kind of gone over some of them, but just like, the acceptance part, I think is big, especially for me, because, for a long time, I was, very, like closed-minded, and not to like, accepting different beliefs and, lowering the standard, because like I said, I'm more, traditional. I like to stick close to the Bible and stuff like that. But just, in terms of people's past, I don't want to, judge people too harshly because I got my own problems, right? And I think like, another issue is, like expectations for relationships.
Thank
like,
you. That's a very good one.
Well, yeah, like,
Oh, yeah.
if, a lot of people, they want this perfect guy, this perfect girl, this dime piece, and I've always believed beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
People, everybody says they're married to the most beautiful person in the world, and that's how it should. That's how it should be.
I like that.
Exactly. So
It's a
I
good
just think we
thought.
need to, like, just see people the way Jesus sees them more often, and not how the world wants to see them. God always looked at the heart when He chose people to, work with, and when He chose people to do His, bidding and things like that. And I feel we should, look at the heart more often when we are deciding a mate. Because me and you were kind of talking about this yesterday. We were talking about like physical attraction. We were talking about looks and and what was the other
Always
thing?
talk
Looks
about
compared
looks.
to like, your character and stuff like that, and which matters
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And we both agreed that like
That's
physical
really-
attraction
Is important.
is important.
It's
But
important.
we actually disagreed on how important it is. So my
Can I finish
my
real quick?
estimate. Yeah, go ahead.
Just
Sure,
saying,
sure.
just, like we both agreed that physical attraction like is important, right? I just believe that in the end of it's not the main thing. And like I said, or it doesn't really matter, I would say. That's because I said beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like, you can be physically attracted to someone just because they're a great personality. Maybe they make you laugh a lot. Maybe they're, just very, compassionate and loving and caring, and will go out of their way for you. You can think someone's a beautiful person just because of that.
Yeah.
I think we need to look at that more, as just in the world more. That's like a world thing too.
Yeah.
So that with the just acceptance more I think that's what
I want to touch upon a lot of issues that pertain to guys and as it pertains to kind of just relating to the opposite gender, because I personally have a ton of female friends. I have a lot of women friends who I adore, who I love spending time with, but a lot of guys just don't know how to even make a friend with the opposite gender. It's daunting to them. It's scary to them. They don't know how to kind of even get themselves ready. They don't know what to say. They, their hands clam up, et cetera, et cetera. I want to make sure we touch upon that. And I can't obviously forget, for me, I kind of went through this personally, long distance dating. Got to talk about that. I want to touch upon physical limitations when it comes to the dating life. And then, like I said, how to attract and how to approach the opposite sex. I feel like all of that stuff is incredibly important, along with, a lot of tons of other topics that we are going to touch upon in this wonderful, beautiful podcast.
Something I just thought about, I think, that I kind of want to see if we can do somehow, is how to bring God into each scenario. When approaching, when talking, when looks, like I said earlier, how do you bring God in every step of the way? Because when you talk about even just making friends, it's so easy to take God out of the picture. Well, you just you go up to them and say hi or whatever. I don't know. I feel like some way, somehow, how to integrate God into each and everything. Because I think it is possible, because we're Christians and God leads us in everything. So I think in every single topic, we can somehow find a way to connect it to Him.
I like that. I hope this podcast can kind of accomplish the being able to educate on a lot of these topics and start a conversation to then, kind of move the needle forward in terms of knowledge and putting that to practice. But I definitely want to be us to be the hub for discussions when it comes to Adventist relationships. I want to be able to educate the younger generation on how to approach the different phases of dating, on how to be single, on how to use that time to, or I should say, how to maximize that time. And also, and maybe especially, I want to connect Adventist singles across the country. Like Michael was saying earlier, the numbers aren't in our favor, and that's not necessarily something. Not necessarily something to dissuade us or to demotivate us or to what's the word I'm looking for here, to put us in any depressive kind of state, because God has somebody for you regardless. And if He doesn't have somebody for you, you're gonna be okay. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And maybe that's something, I know that's something that I at times haven't understood. And the more that we talk about it and the more that we discuss it, the more that we can kind of comprehend and begin to see that we're not alone in this. There are a lot of single people in the world, a lot of single Adventists across the country and across the world. I mean, I don't want to necessarily limit us to the U.S., although that is where we are. But I know in Europe, I was told from a very good source that, the female to male ratio is even worse over there.
You need to go to Europe.
And they're less friendlier too, right?
They are less friendly.
Really?
Especially in the Baltic and the Germanic
really
states.
But
Europe,
usually
I
the
guess.
guys are hotter.
Ismyrna, everybody in Europe is hotter.
I'm just saying.
I see what you're trying to say here. But we definitely don't want to just end without giving a note of encouragement to a lot of the singles out there. For me, I'll start off, and then Abby, and then Michael, just with a note of encouragement, just to say that God's plan for your life is the best plan possible, and I want us to stick to it. I want us to have a game plan when it comes to the relationship portion. And when it comes to the other phases and parts of our lives, we can have that discussion in another place and at another time. But I want us to feel comfortable in knowing that God's love for us is bigger and more beautiful than we know. And even though we may be feeling single and sucky in our loneliness, it's not the end of the world. And not just it's not the end of the world, but we need to trust ourselves in the hands of the very one who we call our Savior.
Yeah. Going off of that, something that encourages me is just reminding myself that it's God's timing, not mine. God's plan, not mine. God's purpose, not mine. And what I need to be doing in this season of singleness for me is to be seeking Him first. Because at the end of the day, I might not find someone. But, God's love is enough. Because God's love is perfect. So, I'm not going to be as sad anymore, but rather I'm going to claim God's promises that He's enough for me. And if I find a man, okay. But if I don't, I got God, and that's all I need.
Way more than you need.
All right, and that's a wrap. I think Abby, that was pretty good. I think we all feel, that that desire and that longing for relationship, and that's how we're made, right? Yeah. And so, God is a God of relationships, right? I mean, there's three gods, they're a family. And God made marriage. He made, the feelings of love, and He made these feelings. I mean, we feel this way for a reason. It's not like, this is just, random. Like, God made us to feel this way. And so I just want to encourage people that God knows what you're feeling. He understands, and He loves you more than anything in the world. And so, just continue to trust in God. I know that's so cliche to say, but I mean, that's honestly the best way to go about it,
Yeah.
Because first of all, just being in a relationship doesn't mean you're going to have all your problems fixed, because there can be a lot of pain in relationships. Okay. But when you trust in God and you allow Him to, just guide your life, and you're patient, and you don't, look around at the world and see what everybody else is doing. And I know we talked about social media. Like, social media is not real. Like, yeah, we see, people that are happy, but I mean, those same people that could be happy the next day could be, divorce. I mean, how many times have we seen
or they just
people
smile for the
in
picture.
relationships, and then the next day all the pictures are gone?
Yeah.
We know these things happen. So the main thing, like as Myrna said, is just to stay and focus, on God and where He has you right now. Okay. And like, if you want to have that relationship, yeah, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Continue to pray about that, but just don't leave God out the equation, and just to understand that He knows and He hears, and that everything will be okay. And that first and foremost, He is concerned with your salvation.
Yeah.
Before any relationship with anybody else. God wants you. He said He was.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Exactly. But God said He was a jealous God.
He wants your happiness.
He wants to be with you, because He knows true happiness is with Him, first of all. So He wants to be with you. So just trust Him. Trust Him. I think Ellen White, she says that when we look back, and when this world and this life is done, and when we look back on how God has led our lives, she said we will understand and have chosen and agreed with every step He has taken us in our lives.
I actually love that quote.
I love that. I actually blew my mind when I read that. So just continue to have trust. Continue to trust God where you're at. That's all I'll say.
I like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close this out with prayer, and then get ready for the next episode. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast so far. And I hope you continue to join us on this journey as we tackle the topics on relationships in the Adventist context. Let's go ahead and pray. Father, we want to thank You for loving us the way that You do. I want to thank You for allowing us to get together, and for putting on our hearts to discuss and talk and talk about this topic. As we continue here on with, with this topic and in this first season. God, I pray that you be with us, and that the words that come out of our mouth may be influenced by you, Father, and that every single person listening to the sound of my voice can feel and understand that relationship is core to who you are, Father, and that you want to have a relationship with us more so than we even want to have a relationship with a beloved of our own. Thank you, Father, for loving us in that way, and I pray that you be with us throughout this week. Thanks again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for spending time with us in The Pursuit. We're very excited about continuing the conversation on Christ-centered dating. In this first collection of episodes, what we're calling the first season, we'd like to start from the beginning and tackle just how to best maximize being single and how to best prepare for a relationship. As we progress, we'll be tackling some more nuanced topics, such as dating outside of the church, sexuality, and gender roles. That said, we don't only hope that you can join us on said journey, but we hope to connect with you as well. We'd like to hear what your thoughts were on the episode, or even a personal story that fits this episode or that topic just right. You can do so on our social media channels at The Pursuit, all one word, .bs, or on our website at baerstone.com/The Pursuit. Again, that's Baerstone, BAER, stone.com/The Pursuit. You can find future episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as our website, where you'll find exciting bonus content we'll be releasing very soon. A special thanks to Attractive for making this episode possible. Attractive is a web firm that specializes in making and maintaining uniquely functional and appealing websites for Adventist organizations. Whether it's your local church, junior academy, conference, or camp website, Attractive would be more than happy to make sure you're representing Christ in an attractive and functional way in the digital realm. You can find more information about Attractive and their services at itsattractive.com. Again, that's all one word, ITS, attractive.com. Thanks again to Attractive for making this episode possible. We appreciate you spending time with us, and I hope you'll join us again soon. Cheers.